What if you could silence the noise of the world and access inner bliss? What if you knew the shining formulas for overcoming the enormous challenges that every soul faces? Welcome everyone, I'm Shakti Durga. Mystery School podcast, Ancient Wisdom for Everyday Life, will explore the ancient wisdom of the East and West, sharing stories and music, channeling light beings, scanning the unseen world, learning useful spiritual tools, and bringing forth peace, love, purpose, and abundance. In Mystery School, we co-create and share sacred frequencies, sending ripples of love that empower new possibilities to ignite our spirits, overcome obstacles, manifest our most inspired life, a life where your challenges become doorways to your deepest truth, where you anchor yourself in clarity and presence, not from your pain, but from the doors it opens into the deepest wisdom that's already within you. Your path has already begun. It's right beneath your feet. Let's illuminate that path together.
I want to welcome everyone to a very, very special and important show. Thank you. I'm Dr. Pat, and I get to take this journey, and it is an amazing journey. And whenever I get to have a conversation with Shakti Durga, whenever this happens, it's not a surprise that what we talk about is so absolutely beautiful and important. And today, the journey of consciousness. And so much has been said, but I got to tell you, I'm not the expert here. I am not that person or that team that is soul stirring up in the mystery school that is teaching so many people, that is opening doors to a new way of being. That's Shakti Durga, that's her team. That's what's going on. But the question is, are you ready when the teachings come? Are you ready? And this is very relevant to me because I've looked back at my life here in the past couple of weeks and there are just so many things that really tap into this. Many of you may be thinking, what is Dr. Pat talking about? Well, I'm not going to talk much longer because today I want you to take the journey of consciousness with us. And I know that's a word you've heard before, but I want you to hear it today because the Mystery School works with us on our everyday tasks, our lives. No matter what we're faced, are you ready to tap into the inner world, also powerful? And would you love to know how? Such a powerful show. It's so great, Shakti Durga. It's so great to have you here to talk about this. And it's so needed right now. Of course, you're coming back from your trip.
Yeah.
Which, you have lots to talk about.
Yeah, that's right. 3 weeks at a Himalayan ashram with a Himalayan master. We'll do things to your consciousness, and that's something that the changes are so rapid when you go through these things that there's no way you can miss the fact that your consciousness just expanded. But for those who are earlier on in their path, we often think that expanding consciousness means learning more things in the physical world. So perhaps getting another degree or turning your master's into a doctorate or something like that. And that's a very valid path of learning. It's not really what on the mystical path we would refer to as expansion of consciousness. And the reason for that is because the paradigm hasn't shifted. The inner person who is doing the research, the person who is at the essence of what the work is still the same person. So unless you happen to be doing some kind of research that is literally transforming you as you do it, then it's not an expansion of consciousness from the mystery school perspective. It's just learning more things in the same paradigm that you already live in. So what's so interesting about the mysteries is that you can, through various practices, learn how to recognize that what you're living in is within a paradigm. You can start to recognize the traits of the paradigm within which you're living, and you can start to see patterns. You can start to see where you might have some blockages. And then we just work through those blockages, and it might be different for different people. But a lot of it has to do with what do we feel we are worthy of?
Oh,
And, the sense of, there's two things. One is, what are we worthy of? And the second is, what do I perceive to be me?
yeah.
So in the Indigenous Australian traditions, for instance, people have a totem animal, and the way it works here is that it might be an animal, it might be a rock, it might be a plant, but they learn to so identify with that other being in our world that is them as well. So they can totally merge with the energy of platypus, or they can totally merge with koala, and they see themselves as koala as well as the person. Now, to us in the West, that'd sound quite strange, but for them it's normal because their consciousness is literally more expanded than ours. So in these subtle ways, they're much more connected. So when you meet the great masters, as I've had the privilege of meeting several, that their consciousness is one with everything, which is just so staggering. They don't see self as what's contained within this body. They see self as arising in the whole of the world and beyond as well. And one of the masters once said to me, because I was asking them, how do you actually know what's going on even in people's thoughts, because they can read your mind as easy as anything. And it's as though you've spoken, which is a bit daunting. But anyway, and this master said, well, it's kind of like if I want to know what's happening with my big toe, I just think about my big toe and I put my focus on my big toe and I know how my big toe is. Whereas the rest of the time, I'm not aware of my big toe. And so that's how they know anything they want to know about. So because they are that. So there's a sense that I am, and then you put anything you want after it because their consciousness is so inclusive. So when I talk about a journey of consciousness, what I'm talking about is moving from a sense of I'm limited to this skin to I'm one with the universe. And that's not just some sort of wacky statement. This is a felt, sensed experience. And I've been, privileged to have that experience a few times, but I don't live in that experience. But the masters that I train with, they do live in that experience. Yeah. And it's very interesting being around them because when you are one with everything, certain attributes of the complications we mortals have are much easier to manage. For instance, several times I've been with my main teacher, my guru, and we've been in remote valleys in the Himalaya and perhaps flooding rain's coming. So he'll go and meditate and move the rain and delay it so that we can get out of the valley safely. And then an hour later, the valley's totally flooded. You know what I mean? It hasn't just happened once. It's happened lots of times. And, where there's flights that are cancelled day in, day out because of monsoon and all that, he just looks at the sky and asks that it clear up. And it does.
Wow. Mm.
And, we were able to fly out to get home this last trip on a day that everyone woke up and went, oh, there's no way. We're in a 10-hour car ride on Indian roads here. This is for sure. But Yogi Raj said, no, it's fine. You're going to get your flight. And there was no evidence that we were going to get our flight. It was so heavy, set in, terrible weather. Anyway, sure enough, it cleared up and we flew out. So why are they able to do that? Because they're one with the water. They're one with the air. They're one with the sun. They're one with the earth. And this is a sense of spiritual grandeur, I think is the only word I can give it.
Yeah.
And the journey for us to attain these kinds of experiences is partially on account of what's happened in our past lifetimes and the training we may have brought with us into this life, but also the application we make in this life. And I think for these things, you actually do need a guide or a teacher.
I agree.
Because you don't kind of accidentally learn this stuff, No. Even my spiritual teacher was trained from infancy by those in the Nath tradition of North India, which is a very mystical yogic sect, you know, and they just meditate for the good of humanity. They're not really interested in having very many students. They just meditate for the good of humanity. And without them, goodness knows what state our world would be in. But they're right at the pinnacle of consciousness and what's possible. And the rest of us are somewhere on the spectrum, you know, of consciousness. Interestingly, also, when I was younger, I did a personal development program where the teachers had worked out a psychometric testing methodology by which they could look at what do you think your self-esteem's like and your sense of self from your conscious mind. And then they could also test what's going on subconsciously. And at that time, you know, I was a practicing barrister. I was very successful. I had the life, you know, and I would have said I had really high self-esteem. But then when we did the test, it showed that, well, yes, I did have really high self-esteem on the conscious level, but subconsciously there were all these doubts and fears and insecurities, which truly I didn't even know they were there. And I got such a shock. I was even a bit angry with them. I thought, this is a stupid test, you know, this test can't be right. But then they said, look, it explains why things go wrong. It explains why things happen in your relationships. It explains why very grounded things happen to you. And then, you know, I've spent the last 30 years coming out of those places and accessing more of the sense of fulfillment and fullness, you know, within my own self that isn't sort of the needy self, you know. It's been a journey. It's been hard at times. I've got to tell you, it's been quite hard at times. But having traveled that journey, I love nothing more than to help other people to overcome the inevitable hurdles that they're going to face on this journey of literally expanding their consciousness.
And I want to ask you, I want to stop for a moment because I want people to know the many, many ways you are doing that. And I want to take a moment and make sure the people listening, and I know Nat is putting some things up, but that people see we don't have to take this journey alone. What you're speaking today, they could go to your website. They could find some help. You know, they could do some things. And I want to make sure we don't wait till the end. If you could just tell folks, now that you're back, I'm not sure if you're going to leave again, but now that you're back, you've put together some beautiful, beautiful things for people. Correct me if I'm wrong here. For people to take the journey wherever you are.
Yeah, that's
wherever
right.
You are.
The journey of consciousness, and we've called it the path of ease and grace, because you can have the path of hard work and suffering, and that is what's going to happen if we don't use the tools on the path of ease and grace. You know what I mean? It's just the way life is. So in the path of ease and grace right now, we're looking at relationships as pathways to self-realization. Yeah. And how it is that we can bring our soul and our spirit in to fuel us with tools to be able to have more inner strength and show up in a more fulsome way in our relationships, thereby overcoming old patterns that we perhaps have always got stuck with in relationships. So it's quite a strong program because there's a lot of Shakti moving in it, and people are having a lot of sense of their consciousness moving during the program. So that's already started, but people can still jump in.
Where do they go for it? Where can they go, please? Yeah,
shantimission.org has got the programs. Okay. Shantimission.org is our main website, and you can join in Empowering Relationships, Spirit and Soul, because everything's recorded. And the thing I'm very excited about is that my daughter, who's been on a journey of consciousness with me for her whole life, and she's a master in her own right, she's amazing. So she takes a little bit more of an academic approach to these things than I do, because she does have a PhD in unconditional love. And so I take a more mystical approach, but we're both overlapping, and people get access to both content when they sign up for one program. They get her take on it, they get my take on it. It's all recorded. There's live meditations that are then cut so that people can have access to those. There's notes, there's books, there's a lot of resources for people. And we try and keep the prices low because we want everyone to be able to access the programs. So so that's on at the moment, and people seem to be getting a lot out of it. So that's good.
I want to make a statement to you because there's no time for me to go into it. But I really want to support this program beyond anything you can imagine. And I will talk with you on how we can do that.
Mhm.
What's going on in families here, what's happening, and separations and anger and sisters denouncing another sister. And I have been around the planet a while and I have not experienced this to the point where Linda asked me to take out my sage and my sacred material that I learned from the Lakota traditions, right? I hadn't looked at that. And I took them out and I did a ritual around the house.
Mm.
And I forgot. And see, this is what I want to say to you. We have a forgetter.
Or we do. We certainly do. Because what happens is when you go on a spiritual retreat or you're with a very high consciousness person and they infuse you with their consciousness, this is why it's so magical, working in these mystical ways, because you literally just breathe in and their consciousness starts to flood through you. And then it alters your consciousness. So you get this lift. But in order to maintain the lift, you have to do practices that would maintain the lift until it becomes so steadfast inside you that you don't need the practice anymore. Yeah. And by then you're off again and there's new practices that will support you on the next lift in your consciousness. And half the time we ourselves don't know which processes or practices that we should be using because we're not au fait enough with our own consciousness. And so sometimes it takes a third party to look and go, you know what, you're doing this, this, and this, and that's really fantastic. But where you've got a gap is over here. And this is a practice that will fill that gap for you so that you'll vibrationally be in a stronger place. So that's the sort of thing we do with our therapy, Ignite Your Spirit therapy, which is a modality that is really to support people on the spiritual journey of awakening of consciousness. And along the way, lots of health stuff happens that's amazing as well. But it's actually for consciousness expansion. It might be one of the only ones that is specifically designed to help people elevate their consciousness and live from that place. So I agree with you, Dr. Pat. It's we can learn the tools, but if we don't use them, they're not very useful. So there is a bit of discipline that we need. And also, sometimes if people's lives are going very well, they instinctively don't want to do any spiritual practices because everything's going so well, I don't want anything to change. And we kind of know that when you do a lot of spiritual practices, things will change. And so people can end up falling in a hole because they just don't do any practices. When things are going badly, we're actually much more motivated to do things that will lift and shift us, unless we get so well, I don't want much in a hole, perhaps depressed, that we withdraw completely and we go inward, but we don't ask for help. We don't get any help. And that's something that can be avoided, if we're working in a community that's becoming more conscious and we have a teacher that's conscious, and there's teachings to support us. So we can be held, and Ignite Your Spirit therapy is phenomenal for people with depression because it's a state of consciousness. And so we help them shift out of it.
It's so important. And I want to ask you a question before, and we're going to end the show with a beautiful mantra, but it seems like, at least for me, that I hit a bump in the road of some kind. Now, sometimes it's a little bump in the road, and sometimes I have hit the Great Wall of what used to be China. And after a while you learn. And yesterday I shared a very interesting story with Linda I never shared. I had a fear of bees, horrible fear. And on my first voyage out in a circle with my teacher, what do you think she gives me to do in the desert? Is to wash all the dishes. What do you think fuzzy bees do when you bring water into the desert? I don't have time to go into the story, but that feeling you just talked about? I've had moments of it where the bees and I had to be one, or it wouldn't have turned out well. Isn't this part of what you do, is help people with the everyday? And we don't know our fears.
It's everyday stuff. I mean, an example is if you're walking down the street and a good friend seems to look straight through you and ignore you and walks off without acknowledging you. If your consciousness is in a place of I'm not good enough or I'm not worthy, then you're straight away going to create a story that that person did that deliberately, that how rude are they, you know? Whereas if your consciousness is in a compassionate place, like a very expanded, compassionate kind of place, you might go, oh, I hope that person's all right. And you might give them a ring later and ask them if they're okay. You see what I mean? Whereas the other person is going to go into separateness because of something where the person may well have been just daydreaming or having a terrible problem that they're grappling with internally. And we're often in a state where we're walking along and we're totally somewhere else in the mind. But that's just an example of how a different consciousness will approach the same issue from a different place and get to a different conclusion, get to a different result. And those things are happening every day of our lives, you know. Yeah. It's not what happens to us that matters. It's our response to what happens to us that matters. And so learning to have different responses to the ones that have been programmed into us as children is really part and parcel of the expansion of consciousness that we want to embody.
Yeah. I want to ask you about waking up. I know that we have only a few minutes left, but I think we have a misunderstanding about waking up. And, you know, there are things we talk about, spiritual growth and emotional overwhelm. But here's the question. Some people, I think, and this is a great misunderstanding, that's why I really want to work with you to help get this out. They think, I have to go to the desert like you, Pat, for 10 days. I used to think that too. But we don't. There are other methods and tools. And that's what you're bringing. That's what the mystery school brings.
Yeah, it is, so that you can do it from home, and you can, certainly it's lovely to go on retreats, and I'm a big fan of retreats, don't get me wrong, but you can just work steadily away from home by joining into groups that are progressing on this or that, you know, like relationships, or working on your wealth even. Just, these are great training grounds for us to start to see things differently. You know, when we teach about wealth, we're talking about your spirit, we're talking about your soul, we're talking about your karma, we're talking about not just how your mind works. It's very multifaceted, multidimensional, and it has an effect on what you can attract to yourself. So, yeah, everything we do is practical, as well as, you know, reaching further into your own spirit and soul.
Now, we're going to bring this show to a beautiful, beautiful vibration right now. And I want to tell people to reach out to you, to connect with you, to send you an email, because I can't tell you how many calls I've been on in the past 3 weeks, which broke my heart, because people are at that place and just a few words could change it. But practicing, come on now.
Yeah.
Right? You and I have practiced to even be here today. So in this show today, how will we close this? How will we bring this to a vibration for people to see the invitation that you have?
Okay. Well, people could be receptive to the mantra that I'll use in a moment. And to be receptive, you just think, I'm going to receive the energy of this mantra. And the mantra is Om Namah Shivaya, which means I bow to the ultimate consciousness, and the ultimate consciousness is pure bliss, beyond any form, beyond any attachment, beyond any aversion. So very good for the times we're living in, where everything's so polarized. This is about, how do you bring people together? How do you have the consciousness of oneness, not the consciousness of separateness and duality? So that's what this mantra's for. So I've been using it for a long time. So people can breathe in, and they'll probably feel the energy of the mantra as we practice it. So are we ready? Yeah. All right. So just touch your heart. Om Namah Shivaya. 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 Just breathing the energy in and breathing out through the top of the head. And take another breath in, releasing through the back of the head and neck, directing the prana in the breath through the various energy centers, breathing in again. And then breathe the energy down through your body and connecting with the earth through your feet. And connecting the Om Namah Shivaya into the earth, breathe the energy up through your feet and into your heart. And then just a couple of breath cycles focused on the heart as you allow deep relaxation to come into your body. And we ask for the blessings of the Shiva consciousness, the pure bliss beyond form, to assist each one of us to expand our consciousness and find the resources we need for more love, more compassion, more kinship with more of life. And we ask this in full faith, so be it.
This was such an important message today. And I will please remind people one more time how they can look at the courses, look at the journey. There's something for everyone. So what is the best way for them to do that?
Well, the shantimission.org website is a good place to go to. And if you're interested in learning the energy healing modality, then igniteyourspirit.com is also useful. And it's for people who want to be in the deep end of the spiritual pool in terms of being able to assist people to make very deep transitions. And to do that, you have to make them yourself. So our therapists are trained in the mysteries so that they can really hold space for other people and assist them on their journey. So yeah, but shantimission.org, anything to do with the Path of Ease and Grace would be great if people are starting. And the mystery school programs, in the deep mysteries, are great for people who've done a lot of other work and who are ready to really expand now.
I can't thank you enough. There are no words to say how important and needed this is in the world. There really isn't. Last question, what's your personal message? What would you like to leave us with today?
That whenever you find yourself going into separateness, judgment, and blame, that a spiritual doorway is just opening and inviting you to come through on a journey of exploration and transformation by which you'll find more love, joy, and connection than you ever thought was possible.
I can't thank you enough. Thank you so very, very much. Thank you all. And for all of you out there that have reached out to us on the network, phone numbers, emails, we hear you. That's why there is a show like this. That's why there is a pathway for you. That's why there is a journey simply waiting for your yes. We'll see you all next time.
Thank you for joining me for Mystery School, Ancient Wisdom for Everyday Life. Be the detective of your spirit and soul and seek the doorways to a new reality. Take one insight from today and let it illuminate your path. Visit shantimission.org to learn more about our other programs, meditations, and resources for living with ease and grace, and sign up for our free Soulful Relationships Masterclass. In this class, we'll cleanse and purify the relationship energy in a key relationship in your life. Previous students have experienced rapid transformation in their marriages, in their relationships, with family, work colleagues, teenagers, just from this one practice. And you'll have a spiritual key to successful relationships that you can use again and again. Sign up for the free masterclass at shantimission.org. And we'll be back at 3 p.m. Pacific time every first and third Monday for Mystery School. Mark it in your calendar. We'll see you next time.